Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Just covered all the times, no matter where you're listening, when you're listening. Now you've been addressed directly. It's for me, it's evening, so good evening, everyone. And it is I, Marshall, here again, doing another episode of Marshall Does a Podcast here in the Cinema Lounge today. My co-host, Ben Herbal, could not be with us today, so I have come up with a genius idea at the last second, and this is what I'm going to do. As many of you probably know, I'm quite the comic book man. I do a lot of illustration on the side. I have just booked a couple commissions, actually, which I'm pretty happy about because I have very little money in my bank account at the moment. But yeah, the point is, I'm a big comic book guy, which means in addition to being the comic book guy and the movie guy, put those together, what do you get? You get me, a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I am here to talk about and rate all of the films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm going to go through them one by one and talk about them, not at length, but for a little bit, tell you my thoughts on them, and, can I rate them? Can I, put them in order of my rating? This'll be, oh gosh, I'm going to try to do it. And it's going to be a really frustrating process to draw out, but I'm going to try to do it. I made a Google document. Where is it? There it is. Okay. And it's on the wrong page. Don't worry, everybody. This is going to be just as chaotic as you would hope it would be. So, let's start at number 1 in release order. I'm going to go through them in release order, talk about them, and see what we think of them. So the first movie that started the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is what I'm specifically going to be talking about. It's not the first Marvel movie, by any means. There were Marvel movies far before this. In the 70s, there was a Spider-Man TV movie, and that's, far removed from anything. Which, starring Nicholas Hammond of Brady Bunch fame. Kind of wild. But the first movie in this the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Iron Man, directed by Jon Favreau, written by Mark Fergus and Hawk Osby, and Art Markham and Matt Holloway. People I've never heard of. But this movie is the one that started it all. There's a lot of legends about this movie. At the time, Marvel didn't really have a lot of money. In the early 2000s, late 90s, Marvel was almost broke. They sold a lot of their characters' movie rights in order to stay afloat, which is how we got the X-Men and Daredevil being made by Fox, and then Spider-Man being made by Sony. Marvel actually offered tons of characters up to Sony, including Iron Man and Captain America. And Sony said, no, we don't want those. Those are trash. Give us Spider-Man. That's the popular one. Which, looking back, insane decision. At the time, they were right. No one cared about those characters. Iron Man was considered a third-tier character at best. But Spider-Man was big money. So that was the plan. That's what they were going to do. So Iron Man the movie in 2008 with Marvel Studios. Not yet owned by Disney. It is Marvel Studios. Going back to this movie is strange. It is so different from the other Marvel movies, everything that we've become accustomed to in the, I'd say, post-Phase 1 world. The Marvel Universe is in 4 phases currently. Phase 4 is the one that's coming up. But the first phase is largely all the Avengers origin movies, and then it ends with The Avengers, directed by Joss Whedon and written by Joss Whedon. And all of these earlier movies are interesting. They all have a very different tone. And then Phase 2 kind of gets a little bit samey, except for Guardians really steps out of that. Otherwise, Phase 2 is kind of cookie cutter. And Phase 3 is when things start to really break back out and have individual feels again. But going back specifically to the first Iron Man especially, is so strange. It's so different from everything that comes after it. So much of it supposedly was improv on set. There's legends that there just wasn't a script half the time, which is crazy. Thinking about the way they make these movies now, where so much of it is, put together before it's even come out, or not before it's come out. Obviously, it's put together before it's come out. Before they've got like a director and stuff on board. But it's insane thinking about the way that they made this movie and the budget they made this movie at. And also, going for Robert Downey Jr., who at the time, not a bankable star. I can't remember where I read it or what exactly it was, but I saw something recently about how Terrence Howard, who played Rhodey in that one, and only in that one, made like however many $1 million, while Robert Downey Jr. only made however many 100,000. Which, wow, what a change that would be soon when RDJ becomes like one of the top earning stars in all of the world. Absolutely crazy. I can't remember how many millions on millions he made for his 15 minutes of appearance in Spider-Man Homecoming. But Iron Man, I like it better than I don't. I don't think it's this incredible revelation at the time. It's certainly new and different. I think it is certainly still one of my favorite Marvel movies, but I think that's because it has that Wild West tone to it. You can tell that they were kind of just forging a new path. It's really unlike any superhero stuff that came before it. All the stuff before that was very much of its time. In, Spider-Man in the early 2000s and X-Men in the early 2000s, Superman in the 70s and Batman in the 80s and 90s. All of these, you could say they didn't really age well. I would say that all of them, except for maybe the Spider-Man movies and Superman, really feel out of place going back to watch them now. They're trying too hard, maybe. But Iron Man just has this feel to it that doesn't seem like... There's nothing in that movie that places it in 2008. There's nothing in... 2008 feels like so long ago. And it seems like it should feel older and it should be more cringy. But it isn't. And I don't know why that is. So I think it's definitely up there. And as of now, it is my, number one Marvel movie, since it's the only one that I've said so far. So I'm going to put at number 1, Iron Man. Number 2, we have, in release order, The Incredible Hulk, directed by Louis Leterrier and written by Zach Penn. I have no idea who these people are. Let's see. Louis did the first 2 Transporter films. Ooh, wow. What a great track record. Clash of the Titans, Now You See Me. So this is a guy who makes... not very good things, and that's what I would say about The Incredible Hulk. I think it gets a bad rap. It's not as bad as people say it is, but it's not very good. It's certainly better than Ang Lee's Hulk, which is a wild, insane disaster of a movie. But The Incredible Hulk, I think it's great. It introduces Edward Norton as the very miscast Bruce Banner. He's an interesting choice, and I think for this movie it works, but I think it would be fascinating to go back and see Mark Ruffalo in that role. I think Abomination is a fun villain. Marvel kind of has this problem in the MCU of having villains that are just the opposite of their main character. Same thing in Iron Man. You get Iron Man versus Ironmonger. In The Incredible Hulk, you have Hulk versus Abomination. Captain America, I guess you kind of have that in the Red Skull. He's also, a super soldier, technically, except he's a Nazi. A lot of that kind of thing. But I do like Abomination as a villain. I don't think he's the main villain, though, and I cannot for the life of me remember what or who the main villain is. If it's General Ross somehow, or... I couldn't tell you the story of that movie. It's a blur. I haven't seen it in a million years. So... with that, I think we might just move on from it. It has that same kind of Iron Man loosey-goosey tone, but for some reason it just didn't work. I think it's maybe the casting of Ed Norton isn't great. I can't remember who plays Betty in this one. Is it Betty? Betsy Ross? Betsy. Betsy Ross? I don't know. The love interest. I think, is this the one where it's Liv Tyler? You can't answer me. Time to drink some tea. Incredible Hulk is fine. Watch it. I am going to make it number 2 for now, since it's the second one that I'm talking about. The Incredible Hulk. Not Huckle, Hulk. Coming in at number 3 in release order, Iron Man 2, the second Iron Man, directed by Jon Favreau and written by Justin Theroux. What else has he done? I know the name. Oh, he worked on Mulholland Drive with David Lynch, one of my favorite people. Cool. Iron Man 2, again, also I think gets more flack than it deserves. It's not great, but it's not terrible. This is a weird era in the Marvel Universe where they haven't really set up any other characters yet. A lot of people don't even think about The Incredible Hulk as an MCU movie. They just forget that it's part of that, partially just because, it's Ed Norton and not Mark Ruffalo. But it is there, it is canon. And then we get to Iron Man 2. It's interesting. The villain isn't really compelling. Ivan Vanko, the Whiplash, he's just Whiplash. It's a weird, different take on the character, which isn't that interesting or compelling. Mickey Rourke, actually, coincidentally, just recently had an interview where he talked about how he thinks he was just on an episode of Law & Order or something, and he called that incredible acting. He called that top-tier acting, and said that the Marvel stuff was crap, that was crap acting. It's like, wow, maybe the one that you were in, I guess, but otherwise, I think you're crazy. Iron Man 2 as a movie isn't very good, and I think that that's just because it functions less as an Iron Man movie and more as a movie that is adding and supplementing this universe with new characters and new connections and pushing it into the next 2 movies to come, the next 3 rather, with the Avengers being the third, where there's a lot of references. You get in the post-credits of Iron Man, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. And that's your little hint towards, they're kind of building towards something. Something's going to happen here. And the Incredible Hulk, RDJ shows up in the little post-credit sequence, and you go, they're really doing something, huh? Then Iron Man 2, they just go all out. You've got Nick Fury, he's a main character. He's trying to rein in Tony Stark, who thinks that he's dying. He is dying. And you get the introduction of Scarlett Johansson as the Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch? No. Black Widow. Different one. And what else? Agent Coulson is all over the place in this movie. He at one point picks up a little bit of prototype of Cap's shield, and then the collective nerd audience freaks out and flips, like going, "Oh my gosh, Captain America, what the heck?" And then later in the movie, actually, I think it's in that same scene, he says, well, you figure this out. I got to go deal with something in New Mexico, referring to his role in the next movie, Thor. So I think the problem with this movie is just that it gets caught up too much in setting up what is to come. It's not terrible. It could be better, but I think it's still a passable movie, and it's good if only because Sam Rockwell is in it, and Sam Rockwell is a rock star and has never made a bad thing that I have seen. So, Iron Man 2. The question now is it better than The Incredible Hulk? I'm going to say it is, but only because I actually remember it. And I could not tell you for the life of me what The Incredible Hulk is about. Iron Man 2. So the current ranking is number 1, Iron Man, number 2, Iron Man 2, number 3, The Incredible Hulk. Okay, up next, Thor, starring Chris Hemsworth, directed by Kenneth Branagh, and written by Ashley Edward Miller, Zach Stentz, and Don Payne. No idea who these people are. It looks like they've just written a bunch of different stuff. Kenneth Branagh, of course, being famous Shakespearean-trained actor. An amazing choice to direct a Thor movie. Too bad it isn't as good as it could have been. I think this is a very average movie. I think it has some really good moments. I really like in the comics the big sweeping epic stories they do with Thor, and I like the attempts at trying to do that in this movie. It just is kind of not great, though. It just doesn't really ever reach the peaks that it should. But it does introduce Loki, who is a compelling character and a compelling villain. You get Thor kind of becoming the outcast and learning how to be humble, even though that continues to be a bit of a struggle of his. But, you got to have some kind of through line to the character. And I don't know. I think that there's some really strong parts of this movie, but overall, I would really just give it like a 7 out of 10 at best. That might even be pushing it. I'd give it like a 6.9. I think it's definitely better than all of these so far, except for Iron Man, though. So I think it's a great, fun movie. I think the casting overall is fantastic. I think this is the best cast collectively so far in the Marvel Universe that I've talked about up to this point. And I mean that as an ensemble. Robert Downey Jr. will always be top casting for his character. But the best ensemble up to this point, I think, is in Thor, with, Stellan Skarsgård and Natalie Portman, who's coming back for the new one, which I hope will be good. I'm kind of worried about it, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say about Thor. I really like the big epic stories. I hope that we get some of that in the new one. So I'm going to put Thor at number 2 for me. And up next, Captain America, The First Avenger, directed by Joe Johnston and written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. Don't forget those names. They're going to be back. Joe Johnston, however, he has not come back. He has directed movies such as Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Jumanji, and Jurassic Park 3, which is kind of strange. None of those I wouldn't peg the man to be the guy to direct this movie after hearing that. But I love this movie. I love Captain America, The First Avenger. I really enjoy... I talk about how like Marvel movies are often kind of cookie cutter. I feel like The First Avenger really has its own feel. Like, it has this World War II good and evil fight, and I like it a lot. And I think the performance by Chris Evans is amazing. He does so well, especially in the early parts. When you look at the behind the scenes, when he's the little Steve, the visual effects that they use to achieve that are wild. It would depend vastly on the shot on how they would do it, but a lot of times you would have like 3 different passes at a scene. One with him not even there. They're just shooting everyone except for him. And then one with this tiny little guy who they would sometimes just paste his head on top of. And then they would do a final one with just, full-size, bulked-up Chris Evans pretending to be weak little Steve Rogers, which is kind of entertaining to watch. Scratch my nose. But then, like, they would have to go in and do, like, Photoshop, essentially, and move specific parts of his body around. It's crazy, because it's so seamless. And for 2011, like, it's insane the amount of visual effects that went into the first half of that movie just on making Chris Evans look like a little boy. And it works out so well, and it looks perfect. The movie overall, I think the Red Skull is not an amazing villain, but he's definitely compelling. It's a very easy good versus evil kind of character, kind of story. When you're talking about World War II, it's not hard to be mad at Nazis. It's not hard to make the Nazis the villains, because they are, of course. So, they definitely did not have an uphill battle when trying to create a character. They have this guy who is literally a skull-faced Nazi villain. Like, he is evil incarnate. Like, you look at this guy and he is the most evil possible representation of evil there could be, which is why he was created back in the 40s when Cap was, a propaganda character. This guy was the definition of evil. Tea time. But I like this movie a lot. I think all the performances are great. Oh gosh, whatever his name is that plays Howard Stark is very fun. I like his transatlantic accent, and he's like a Howard Hughes type essentially, and I think that's really fun. I like that. And of course, Haley Atwell is forever incredibly gorgeous and very just charming in that role of Peggy Carter. Tommy Lee Jones, I always forget that he's in this movie until he shows up. I'm like, oh, what? Tommy Lee Jones is in the MCU? This is crazy. This is strange. Okay, I'm all right with this. So it's fun. I love this movie. I'm gonna put it at number 1 for me, and I'm not sure if anything's gonna knock it off. Captain America: the First Avenger. Yeah. I love that final moment when he wakes up in the hospital room, and they've tried to make it look like he's still in World War II era to not freak him out too much, and he immediately realizes something's wrong because he was at the baseball game they're playing on the radio. He's like, well, yeah, I was there. Got him. And then he breaks out and he runs into Times Square, and you get that moment with him and Nick Fury where he tells him, you've been asleep, Cap, for almost 75 years. And you can just see not just the confusion, but and less so the confusion, but more just the distraughtness and the sadness, the intense sadness at knowing that, he may never see Peggy again, that she might be dead. And just that line of, I had a date, it's so heartbreaking and so beautiful, and I love that that's the end of the movie. That it isn't some big good and evil fight, it's a character moment. And you get to see, even though his convictions are, truth, justice, and the American way, that's Superman, but it's still the same thing. Even though it is this big story, it's still a character thing. And I think that this movie does that better than any of the ones that have previously. It's a character story, and every person in it is so good. I love Captain America: The First Avenger. I might watch it after this. Gosh, that's a good movie. I love Captain America. Chris Evans. God bless you. Up next, Marvel's The Avengers, marking the end of Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Started in 2008. We are now in 2012. I was 12 years old. I think I saw it in theaters. This movie was a revelation. The idea that you could do this kind of thing is insane. It's wild. And to my knowledge, I don't believe this had ever been really done before. There's been large franchises, right? But they're always the same character. James Bond is this long-running thing, but it's always James Bond. It's not like you're doing all of these different James Bond character movies, and then you have the James Bond Avengers movie where they all come together or something like that. This has never been done before, where you have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies all leading up to this event. It's like a comic book. You have these individual issues that come out, the individual stories that you follow, and then they have their big event series, this big event book that culminates all of what's been happening in the disparate books, and you're rewarded for having seen all of these different books. And it's just amazing that it was a success. I think Joss Whedon, we know more shady stuff about him now, but at the time, I think he was the perfect choice. A guy who can make this kind of general, all-around pleasing movie. This is what I'll say about the first Avengers movie. It's not amazing, I don't think. It's not this thing that is super moving or super emotional, as opposed to the first Avenger, which is much more a character story. This one is the big event. This is the big fight. This is the superhero. This is the theme park ride that Martin Scorsese was talking about. It is a movie that you go and you see all of your favorite action figures playing together, and it's amazing. yeah, it's kind of cool having seen all of these movies now and all the TV series and stuff like that. Going back to these early movies, especially then to the Avengers, the first one from 2012, and seeing them meet for the first time. It's fascinating seeing how far they've come. I mean, I talk about how mind-blowing it is that in 2012 they had made 5 movies and then culminated it in this. The idea that it's been 10 years, more than 10 years now, and these characters have moved so far, and their emotional arcs have gone so far, and all of this has come so far. It's incredible. So seeing them meet for the first time is really fun. We get Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk for the first time, and he's amazing. Incredible casting, much better than Edward Norton. Sorry, Eddie. We're on a first name basis, me and Ed. But yeah, it's a fun movie. That's really what it is. Every character gets their moment. Every character gets their fight. And Loki is a fun, compelling, interesting villain. And, we get that first tease at Thanos, which, gets built up and built up and built up and somehow manages to not disappoint but exceed expectations. So yeah, Marvel's Avengers. I am going to put that... I'm going to put it at number 4, right under Thor. Marvel's The Avengers. So right now, at the end of Phase 1, I have number 1, Captain America, the First Avenger. Number 2, Iron Man. Number 3, Thor. Number 4, Marvel's The Avengers. Number 5, Iron Man 2. Number 6, The Incredible Hulk. All right, we're moving on to Phase 2 of the Marvel Universe, which begins with Iron Man 3. Came out in 2013, May 3rd, 2013, just about almost exactly a year after the Avengers came out. It was directed by Shane Black, who directed the Lethal Weapon movies, as well as The Last Action Hero, Long Kiss Goodnight, some classic action movies, and was written by Shane Black and Drew Pearce, who, according to Wikipedia, is a British screenwriter, director, and producer. He's known for creating the British TV comedy No Heroics. He also co-wrote Hobbs and Shaw. And he wrote the story for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Ugh. Bad. Iron Man 3. I think it's interesting that Iron Man gets all this love and that people love Iron Man so much, when really his movies get so much hate. Maybe more than the rest of the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, honestly. No one really praises Iron Man 2, and a lot of people really don't like Iron Man 3. So I guess all of this Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man love is mostly coming from Avengers movies, from Civil War. I don't know. But I like Iron Man 3. I don't think I was going to say it might be my favorite Iron Man movie. It's not. Iron Man is my favorite Iron Man movie. Iron Man 3 really strips the character down. And it does that really intentionally. He's got PTSD after the events of the Avengers. And I think that that's really interesting. And I think it's portrayed fairly well from what I've read from people that have suffered from post-traumatic stress. I like that it really strips him down to just the bare bones. You get that line in Spider-Man Homecoming where he's talking to Peter about, well, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. This movie, is the proof in the pudding. This movie is what lets him say that and mean it. They take away the suits, and he is just the mechanic, like Harley calls him in the movie. And he's going around and just trying to fix these different things, relationships and devices and things like that. And he's trying to do all of it just basically kit bashing whatever he's got. And I really like that. It's unfortunate that this movie's lasting impression is just the Mandarin twist with, oh gosh, I can't remember his name now. Hold on. Ben Kingsley? Yeah, Ben Kingsley plays the fake Mandarin. And Guy Pearce is not an interesting villain. It's unfortunate that that's what the way they went with it, and that I don't know. I just wish that part could have been better. I think that there's some really bland stuff in this movie, and I think that there's some really good stuff in this movie. I think the emotional beats work really well, and I like some of the action too. It feels more run and gun, like the first Iron Man does. And I don't know why that is. All the stuff in the small town is fun. I like that. I like Harley. He's a fun little side character. But overall, not the best, easily not the worst. Iron Man 3, more flack than it deserves. A fun movie. I like it. I'm going to put it at number 5 below Marvel's The Avengers. Iron Man 3. Up next, Thor: The Dark World. I have only seen this once. I have not seen it a second time. That is implied by the first thing I said, which was that I have only seen it once. It's fine. I jokingly call it Thor the Bad Thor, or Thor the Dull World, Thor the Gray World. It's not. It's just, who directed this one? Alan Taylor. What have you done, Alan Taylor? He worked on Lost, The West Wing, 6 Feet Under, Sex and the City, The Sopranos. This is a guy who's directed lots of TV, it seems. I don't know why he did this. This is not seemingly a guy with any kind of anything behind his name. And at this point, the MCU is like a bona fide phenomenon. So why not get a Kenneth Branagh back? I understand why Branagh wouldn't want to come back. Maybe this is one of those situations like, I don't know, like The Empire Strikes Back and then Return of the Jedi, because Empire Strikes Back, directed by Irving Kershner, had a very specific feel, a very specific style, and that's why it's the best Star Wars movie objectively. They shot it in such a way that George would not be able to futz with it in the edit, because that's what, he was known for doing. He was a control freak. So then because of that, and another burp, because of that, for Return of the Jedi, they got Richard Marquand, who is much more of a working man's director. He was basically hired to do whatever George wanted. And I don't know, maybe that's what this is that at this point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they were worried about, what they would do with Thor. They weren't sure what to do with Thor. So they just got a guy who they knew would make a movie that was good enough. And I think they did that. It's not terrible, but it's not great. The supporting cast is back from the previous one. Stellan Skarsgård and Loki is back. He's not dead again for the second time. And I don't know. I honestly, I should watch it again. I really love Thor as a character, and I should watch this movie again. It was written, I should say, by Marcus and McFeely, Christopher Marcus, Stephen McFeely. Like I said, those names are going to keep coming back again and again. And Christopher L. Yost, who is, I believe, a comic book writer. It looks like he wrote a lot of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is an animated series that I grew up watching that I like quite a bit. What other comics did this guy write? Oh, he did some episodes of The Batman, which is a great show I enjoyed. Oh, he did some of Wolverine and the X-Men. I liked that one a lot. Some episodes of Star Wars Rebels. Some good ones. Some comics. Looks like this guy worked on Marvel, obviously Marvel, some Avengers books for a while. Yeah, I don't know. Thor: The Dark World. At the moment, I think I'll put that at number 6 below Iron Man 3. Thor: The Dark World. Just because I like Thor more than I like Iron Man. So I'm going to put it above Iron Man 2 and The Incredible Hulk. I don't think anything is going to go below Iron Man 2 and the Incredible Hulk, but we will see. Up next, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. People love this movie. Directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, and again, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. People love, love, love this movie. I have seen it a couple times. I think it's good. I should watch it again, just because I feel like I'm missing something that everyone else is seeing. I don't know. It feels kind of generic to me. The later stuff that Joe and Anthony Russo, the Russo brothers, who kind of become the kings of the MCU for a little bit here, the stuff that they do later has much more of a tone and specific feel to it than this one I feel like does. And that's probably just because this one was more of a proof of concept, and then later they got to do more of what they wanted to do. And I don't know, choosing these two guys to direct this movie is a strange gambit, honestly, because they hadn't really done much outside of Community, which is weird. But it's good. It's very good. It introduces Bucky as the Winter Soldier, which is interesting and compelling. And we get... is that it? Is that the only villain? Oh, I guess Hydra is the main villain, because then Robert Redford, he's the bad guy in the end. Yeah, that's what we find out. But, I don't know. I think the espionage thing is fun. It's interesting. Looking at the overall story of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think it's more interesting there just because we get to see with Project Oversight and the kind of big brother coming in, because we get to see with, like, Iron Man 3, Tony has built 1 million suits that he's like, well, this is how I'm going to protect the world, and then he destroys them. And then in this one, it's, well, this is how we're going to protect the world. It's a lot of overcompensating for the first Avengers movie, and how are we going to keep that from happening? That's what a lot of Phase 2 is. So, I don't know that I have a lot to say about the Winter Soldier. I think it's good, and I think that it pushes the overall narrative forward, but I haven't seen it enough, and it's been long enough that I've seen it that I couldn't really tell you. So... Oh, I don't know. I don't want to... where do I put it? This is tough. Gosh. Oh, man. I don't know. My inclination is to put it at number 7. Below Thor the Dark World. But that feels wrong. I don't know. People are going to crucify me for it, but I'm going to do that. I don't think that it's better than the first Thor, though. Or worse. Oh, man. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to move Avengers up. I'm going to move Thor down. Come on. Thor. And then I'm going to put Winter Soldier at number 4, below the Avengers and above Thor. There we go. Up next, Guardians of the Galaxy. This was something different. I don't love the first Guardians movie as much as a lot of other people do. I certainly enjoy that it is something new, something different. It has this kind of like similar gray look over the top of it that Winter Soldier does that makes it so visually uninteresting to me. It's certainly... People say that it's really colorful. I think they're thinking of the second one. The second one is much more visually interesting, I feel like. But it's a good movie. We get all this. This is now probably the best ensemble. James Gunn is a fun director. I love his previous work. And I'm excited to see what he does with Guardians 3 and with the Suicide Squad. This is a good movie. I don't know that I have much to say about it. I enjoy it. I think that it's a bit overplayed, but I like it. I think it's probably the best movie to show someone for the first time to get them into the MCU. If not that, then maybe the first Iron Man. I'm going to put Guardians of the Galaxy... I'm going to put it at number 6 below Thor and above Iron Man 3. Guardians of the Galaxy. Up next, Avengers Age of Ultron, a movie that gets more flack than it deserves. I like this movie. This is the only time that we really get to see the Avengers just being the Avengers and not forming or breaking up. Whoa, that was a voice crack. Drink some tea, Marshall. For that reason, I like it a lot. I also think James Spader is really cool and really interesting as Ultron. And, yeah, I don't know. I think it gets a lot of flack for being very similar to the first Avengers movie, but I think that was the right decision, and I think it works really well. You get in this one the introduction of the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Quicksilver doesn't last long, but Wanda comes back, of course, and now she has her own series. Yeah, I don't know. I like this movie a lot. We get some really funny moments in this one, some good little quips, and it pushes the overall narrative forward and pushes us towards Civil War, which is the big thing, I guess. So this is also the last Joss Whedon Marvel movie, for better or worse. So I'm going to put Age of Ultron... I'm gonna... Oh gosh, this is tough, guys. I'm gonna put Age of Ultron... I'm gonna put it below the first Avengers. Oh man, this is difficult. I don't know if I'd agree with this in like a day, but we'll see. Age of Ultron. I'm going to put it at number 4 below Marvel's The Avengers and above The Winter Soldier. Up next, Ant-Man. Ant-Man, directed by Peyton Reed, written by Edgar Wright, Joe Cornish, Adam McKay, and Paul Rudd. I guess Paul Rudd probably only has writing credit on there for improvs that he threw in on set and stuff like that. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me again. I had a big soup for dinner, so the burps are going to be a constant. This movie is good. I think it's really fun. I think Paul Rudd carries this movie. It would be in an otherwise generally okay movie. Paul Rudd elevates it to being pretty dang good. It suffers from the same Marvel reverse villain syndrome, where it's just opposite Ant-Man that he's fighting, which is unfortunate because otherwise it's pretty fun. Yeah, I don't know. We get Ant-Man in this one. We get a little bit of him fighting the Falcon, which is fun. I like that. And then that's how he gets to show up in Civil War. So I don't know that I have a lot to say about Ant-Man. It's a fun little movie, and it's got fun moments, and it builds out the universe more. It's always good getting a new character and building out the world. So I'm going to put Ant-Man... Do I put it below Thor or below Guardians of the Galaxy? That's the question. I'm going to put it below... This is tough. Oh, man. I feel like I was too rough on Thor: The Dark World now. I feel like that should be higher. I'm going to put it below Thor. Given the choice, I would probably watch... No. You know what? It goes below Guardians of the Galaxy. Ant-Man. I'm going to try to move a little quicker since we're at 43 minutes and we have a whole phase to go left. Phase 3, Captain America Civil War, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, written by Marcus and McFeely. This is less a Captain America movie and more an Avengers 3 or 2.5. This is a great movie. I like this one a lot. We get the introduction of Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. Rest in peace. Rest in power. Gosh, is anybody else introduced in this movie? I don't know. Civil War is great. It's so cool getting to see the different ideological backgrounds of these characters kind of butt heads. And I really like it a lot. It bears very little similarity to the comic book of the same name, but that's okay. I think it does really well with what it does. Oh, Spider-Man. Spider-Man is introduced in this one. I'm dumb. I think this is a great movie. I really enjoy it a lot. I think the Spider-Man stuff is fantastic. It's the Russos have done the best Spider-Man stuff in the MCU so far, honestly. The little bits of Spidey that they've gotten in their movies have been so fun and so good. His introduction in this movie is fantastic. The moment that, Natasha is asking Tony, hey, where you know anyone who can help us out? And Tony just says, I got a guy. Or something like that. And then it cuts to just a big screen that says Queens. And I'm in the audience just screaming in my head, Spider-Man is from Queens! Peter Parker lives in Queens! Peter Parker lives in Queens! Oh my gosh! Because we knew he was going to be in this movie. He shows up in the final trailer. So the whole movie, I'm just waiting for where is Spider-Man going to show up? When is Spider-Man going to get there? And it's getting towards what seems like is going to be the end. I'm like, where is Spider-Man? And there he is. He pops up and he's like, hey guys, hey everyone, it's me, Spider-Man, and it's very good. You get the beginning of that dynamic between Tony and Peter, which moves then forward in Spider-Man Homecoming. Captain America Civil War, big fan, like it a lot. Zemo, not an incredible villain, but he gets fleshed out later, and that's great. Civil War, I'm going to put... I'm going to put it below Iron Man at number 3. The next one, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, directed by Scott Derrickson, written by John Spads, Scott Derrickson, and C. Robert Cargill. This movie is overlooked, honestly. I think it's really fun. I like it a lot. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to put it at number 4. I like this movie a lot. I think as origin story movies go, it is really good. I think it's interesting. I think it's got some awesome visuals. I like the character of Stephen Strange a lot. And while the action does leave things to be a little bit desired, I think that I'm honestly most excited for the sequel to this than I am for anything else in the MCU right now. Spider-Man. But that is the main thing, really. Scott Derrickson does a good job. I'm excited to see what Sam Raimi does with the character. Again, other directors so far have done the best with this character up to this point. After this, so I don't know. I like this movie a lot. I think it's really overlooked, and you know what? I'm not going to put it at number 4. I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it at number 5, below. No, number 6. I'm going to put it above Winter Soldier and below Age of Ultron. Doctor Strange. I do like this movie a lot. I think Cumberbatch is fantastic. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This one is great. I think Kurt Russell is fantastic as Ego. This is a very emotionally driven movie, and I think it works a lot better than the first one. I think that the soundtrack is better. I think the visuals are better. I think the acting is better. I think the story is better. Everything about this movie, to me, is an improvement over the first one. The only thing that doesn't really work for me is the Gamora and the other one, her sister, Nebula stuff. That stuff feels kind of drawn out and uninteresting. But everything else works really well, and I love it. And, the Mary Poppins moment is unparalleled. I'm going to put that one at... I'm gonna put it below Age of Ultron at number 6. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Up next, Spider-Man Homecoming. This is a fun movie. Directed by John Watts and written by a bunch of people. This movie's fun. They were trying to go for a very John Hughes, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller kind of feel. And I think they really did that. They really accomplished that. And they have one of the best twists in film history, honestly. This is something that I did not see coming, I don't think I've seen anyone say that they saw coming. It's a fantastic twist that completely changes everything about the story. It changes all the relationships involved, and it changes the stakes greatly. And I think it works really, really well. I love this movie. I think that Tom Holland is fantastic as Peter Parker. He's even better in the second one, but we'll get there. I'm going to put this at... I'm going to put it at number 5. Below The Avengers and above Age of Ultron. Spider-Man Homecoming. Up next, Thor Ragnarok. Crazy that this came out after that. This is a wild era for Marvel. Time to drink some tea. Hold on. Thor Ragnarok is great. Taika Waititi is a great director. It's kind of crazy that he's gotten to make one of these big movies, or that he would even want to, with the kind of more indie stuff that he's usually doing. It's fun. It's crazy the amount of improv they were allowed to do. It's great that they let Chris Hemsworth stretch his comedic muscles, because he's a really, really funny guy. Some of the comedy falls flat for me. I like that at this point in the MCU, we are starting to get to a place where every movie is starting to just become a team-up movie. It's not just a Thor movie. This is a Thor and Hulk movie, and that's great, and I like that a lot. Mark Ruffalo is great in this movie. Arguably, Mark Ruffalo steals the show. I think he's hilarious in this. I think he's also easily the most believable in this. Yeah, I don't know. I think that this is the movie that has me worried about Thor Love and Thunder, because I love this movie and I think it's really fun. But Thor Love and Thunder is adapting an extremely serious and kind of dark arc from the comics, and they got an incredible actor to play Gore the God Butcher in Christian Bale, and Taika Waititi, I'm afraid, is going to make it too silly. Now, having seen Jojo Rabbit, I know that he can do serious, and I honestly prefer the serious stuff over the comedy in that movie. The comedy falls flat for me a lot of the time. So I'm hoping that they can really nail the epic, big, serious tone. I really think that Taika can do it. I just hope that the studio doesn't pressure him out of that. So that's what I have to say about that. Thor Ragnarok, though, great movie, a lot of fun, and I'm gonna put that below Spider-Man Homecoming. Let's go at number 6, below Homecoming and above Age of Ultron. Thor Ragnarok. Black Panther. Black Panther is something else. Directed by Ryan Coogler, written by Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole. This movie was a phenomenon. Like, I don't think it's as amazing as people say it is, but you can't deny the cultural impact and the cultural importance of this movie. It's huge. Jeez, there's another voice crack. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. It's huge. It is, and it's so important to so many people of color to see this on screen, to see this level of diversity, to see this diversity respected, to see this this nation, that hasn't been colonized, that is just this lived-in world, and it's great. I like it a lot. Chadwick Boseman, gosh, rest in power. This guy, he embodied this character. He was incredible as T'Challa, and it is just heartbreaking that we are not going to get to see him again in this role. It's a tragedy, really. His body of work is incredible. Everything that he's done has been fantastic, embodying black icons, like James Brown and like Jackie Robinson. And, you could call the Black Panther a black icon, I guess. He's a fictional one, albeit, but still. And gosh, he's just done, he's turned in these amazing performances, and I can't imagine the difficulty that he was going through when he was doing, Infinity War and Endgame, and just mad respect there. This movie is great. Michael B. Jordan is a fantastic villain, the second most compelling villain in the MCU, in my opinion, second only to Thanos. And it's just heartbreaking watching this movie and knowing that we won't get Chadwick Boseman back. But I thank him for his performances that he gave us in his time that he had, because this movie's great. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really fun moments in this movie. The action is really good for the most part. That last fight sequence is rough only because of the CGI, which is unfortunate. But this is a great movie otherwise. I'm going to put Black Panther... I'm going to put it below Thor Ragnarok at number 7. Avengers Infinity War. Ooh, this is the big boy. Directed by the Russo brothers, written by Marcus and McFeely. This movie is crazy good. This is another level of storytelling. Like the amount that they were able to flesh out Thanos. Like, this is a Thanos movie. This is all about him. And it's great. I like it a lot. I'm a big fan, and I'm happy this exists. I could talk about it at length, but I'm trying to keep this to about an hour. So I'm going to put it at... I'm going to put it below Civil War and above the Avengers. Infinity War. My difficulty here is that I'm kind of ranking these based on, like, would I rather watch this one or that one? And if that's the case, I'm probably going to put this one lower just because it's the first of two. But if I'm talking about just the pure quality of the movie, it has to go at least at number 4. So that's what I have to say about that. Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is an okay movie. It's fine. It's got good bits. It's got bad bits. I wish it was better than it was. I don't really know that I have much more to say about it than that. I love Walton Goggins. The villain is fine. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm going to put... I'm going to put below the first Ant-Man. Well, I'm going to put below Iron Man 3 at number 17. Ant-Man and the Wasp. Terrible title. Captain Marvel. You know what? Earlier when I was talking about, I don't know if anything could go below Iron Man 2 or the Incredible Hulk. We found it, folks. Captain Marvel is at number 21. I want this movie to be better than it is, but it isn't. It's got good bits. It's got really good bits. It's just not very good. It really isn't, and I know that it's not made for me. I am a cishet white male, and it's not. This movie is not written for me. I am not the intended audience, certainly. But objectively, this is not very good. The story is dull. A lot of the times, it seems to be way more concerned with its message of girl power than it is with that making any sense with the story and what's actually happening. It kind of degrades Nick Fury a little bit in ways that I think he's obviously a younger agent, and that makes sense and that could be fun, but there's some moments that are just like, why do that? What was the point of that? I will say I think that he's the strongest part of this movie, which is unfortunate since it's a Captain Marvel movie. Brie Larson, I think, is just miscast. I think that she's a great actress in the right role. Like, obviously, Room exists, and she's amazing in it. But she just seems really miscast in this. It's weird that she seems to have, like, this lack of caring for comic books as a medium and for the comics and stuff. Like, you see interviews leading up to this, and she just doesn't seem to care a ton, which is interesting. I don't know. I want it to be better than it is. I think it also it really was set up to fail because it's an origin movie that takes place in the 90s, so it's not pushing any story forward. We're going back in time. We're not doing anything new or changing anything in the course of the series at all. It's an origin story, so now we have to set up a new character and all of their supporting characters. But now it's the 90s, so all of these supporting characters, more or less, are not going to come back. So you're just giving all of these characters that we really don't have time to form attachments to. And that's fine because there's no reason to care about them because we're not going to see them again. And the fact that it came after Infinity War, this is the movie that comes right before Endgame. Everyone is gearing up for Endgame. They're gearing up for the big event. And this is what we get. This is the opener to the big band. It's unfortunate. This movie was set up to fail in every single way possible. And to me, despite that, it's still disappointed. I am genuinely excited for the new one. I hope that the next one is good. I think it only has one director, which praise God. I think this double director team was a mistake, and it also has 8 writers, which is ridiculous. Hopefully the second one is better. It's called The Marvels, and we're going to have Monica Rambeau in it and Kamala Khan, which I'm really excited about. And hopefully we can kind of kick that origin movie syndrome and move into some interesting territory. But we'll see. Avengers Endgame. Oh, I should place this. Oh, I did. Number 21. Avengers Endgame. Ooh, man. I'm putting it... Gosh, that's tough. I'm putting it number 2. Avengers Endgame. Endgame is incredible. The culmination of 10 years of movies, 10 years of stories, all brought together into this final moment. And it works incredibly well. It's not as intense or tight as Infinity War, but I think that it works really well and that it perfectly ends all of these characters' stories. I love this movie. I get emotional watching this movie. I get emotional watching clips of this movie. I think it's fantastic. And the only reason it's not number 1 is because I have a tough time watching it as an individual film. I feel like I have to watch it with Infinity War to get the full effect of it. Yeah, man, incredible movie. I hope the Russos aren't done with the Marvel Universe forever. And finally, crazily, the last Marvel movie that we have gotten at all, was Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm going to put Spider-Man Far From Home right below Infinity War at number 6 and above the Avengers. Spider-Man Far From Home. This is a great movie. This is a really good Spider-Man movie. The visual effects in this are incredible. All the Mysterio sequences are great. For me, it drags a lot in the first half until we get the reveal of Mysterio being the bad guy. And maybe that's just because I knew that going in, but it just feels slow to me up until that point, and then it becomes so good. It's a lot of fun. The score is fun. It's a little bit more electronic than I'd like, but I like it. It continues that kind of John Hughes-esque feel. It's still directed by John Watts. This one written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers. It's fun. I like it. It's crazy to me that this came out in 2019. This was July 2nd of 2019. It has been almost 2 years since the release of a Marvel movie. That's crazy. For 10 years, there was more or less a couple Marvel movies at least every single year. And now I've gone 2 years without one. That's nuts. I'm excited for Marvel movies to come back. I don't really care about Black Widow, unfortunately. I don't know why I don't, but I don't. I'm sorry. Yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home was a lot of fun. A lot of interesting character moments, a lot of fun moments in that one. And I like it. You get to see Peter dealing with the death of Tony and kind of becoming his own hero, stepping out of Tony's shadow and becoming, something different, something new. And I like it a lot. So that is my official ranking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it stands, just including the movies, not talking about WandaVision or Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So here's the list. Here's what I've got. At number 22, Captain Marvel. Number 23, Captain Marvel. Number 22, The Incredible Hulk. Number 21, Iron Man 2. Number 20, Thor, The Dark World. Number 19, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 18, Iron Man 3. Number 17, Ant-Man. Number 16, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 15, Thor. Number 14, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Number 13, Doctor Strange. Number 12, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 11, Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 10, Black Panther. Number 9, Thor Ragnarok. Number 8, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 7, Marvel's The Avengers. Number 6, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 5, Avengers Infinity War. Number 4, Captain America Civil War. Number 3, Iron Man. Number 2, Avengers Endgame. And number 1, Captain America, The First Avenger. Whew! Take a drink. That was an endeavor, but I did it. There's all the list of all the TV shows and stuff on here. I don't want to talk about that right now. But yeah, those are the movies. Those are all the movies. I love them dearly. I am a big fan. It's incredible that this is a thing that exists, that it's happened, and it seems to be really kind of once in a lifetime because DC sure as hell hasn't figured out how to do it themselves. I'll tell you, I'm much more of a DC guy in general, not as much the movies as I am the comic books. So it's really sad to me that DC hasn't been able to get a real universe going or anything like that. But I'm happy that we have the Marvel universe, and I'm happy that we get these Marvel things, and that these days they're really breaking out of their shell and doing new, different, interesting things, such as, Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm really excited to see Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. Looks really good. I've been watching Kim's Convenience, and he is in that. He's very funny in that. That's a great little sitcom. Great little sitcom on Netflix. You should check it out. Kim's Convenience. I'm a big fan. Eternals looks to be incredible. A big epic. And it's directed by Chloe Zhao, who just won Best Director for, I think, Nomadland. And she's going to be doing some other cool stuff coming up, which should be cool. Spider-Man No Way Home is the end of John Watts' trilogy. And who knows if he'll go and do more of those after that, or if he will do other things and other people will take up the Spider-Man directing mantle. We'll see. Hopefully we get somebody else. I like John Watts, but I'd be interested to see someone else take the reins of this version of the character. I'm fascinated to see what this movie's going to be. There's a lot of rumors around it, but we'll see. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is coming up in 2022, directed by Sam Raimi. I am crazy excited about this. Sam Raimi in the MCU is, giving me goosebumps right now. I love Sam Raimi, and I love Doctor Strange, and we're going to get Scarlet Witch in this movie. There's rumors that Spidey might be in this movie. So I'm really excited to see what happens in this one. I'm really, really excited. I think Sam Raimi is the perfect director to do this. Thor: Love and Thunder in 2022, directed by Taika Waititi. Hopefully that'll be good. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever in 2022. The death of Chadwick Boseman. There's a lot of question of how this movie is going to play out. But we will see. The Marvels is the new Captain Marvel movie in 2022 with Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel, and Photon, played by what's-her-name, who plays Monica Rambeau in WandaVision. It's going to be directed by Nia DaCosta, who has done some okay stuff, it looks like. We'll see. Hopefully that turns out good. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That's going to be directed by Peyton Reed again, which doesn't give me a huge amount of hope for it. And it's going to feature Kang the Conqueror as the villain, which is wild. Like, that's an Avengers level villain, and they're putting him in an Ant-Man movie. So, okay, good luck. Then Guardians of the Galaxy 3, directed by James Gunn, written by James Gunn. It's his final one. So hopefully that's good. And then we have, finally, the movie that I'm very excited about, The Fantastic Four. I'm so excited for The Fantastic Four to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think Reed Richards is going to be very cool to see as like an Avengers leader, a leader in this universe. So we'll see. There's been rumors circling lately of John Krasinski and Emily Blunt actually in consideration for those roles, actually in talks for those roles. So we'll see if those are founded or not. But that's the upcoming stuff. Of course, the Loki TV series looks like a lot of fun. So, yeah, that's been Marshall's thoughts on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, my ranking. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening to the episode. This has been me in the Cinema Lounge doing a podcast. Hopefully we'll get Herbal back next week, because this is difficult, doing a show individually. But if you want to contact the show, you can get in contact with us on Instagram at Cinema Lounge Pod, or I'm at mparish_art on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and Twitch. The YouTube channel is The Great Scubdu, SCUBDU. Hoping to start streaming again at some point. We will see. And just thanks everybody for listening, for checking out the show. If you have the time or the inclination, please tell a friend if you think they would enjoy the show. Or if you don't think they'd enjoy the show, lie to them. Trick them into listening to the show. And it'll be our little joke. And we'll love it. And they will be accidentally addicted. And then they'll have to do the same thing when they listen to this episode. So thanks again, everyone, for listening. Hopefully I'll have Herbal back next week, and we will be talking about The Trial of the Chicago 7. Great movie. Huge fan. Hey, what are your favorite MCU movies? I want to know. Not just your favorite MCU movies, but tell me your favorite superhero movies, and what are you most excited for coming up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I'm going to say that I'm probably most excited for Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and the Eternals and Shang-Chi and Thor and Black Panther and the Marvels and the Guardians of the Galaxy and Fantastic Four. Sorry, Ant-Man, I don't really care. But yeah, thanks everybody for listening. I've been Marshall.